Hey, welcome back to the Abundant OD, a show where we have real conversations with independent optometry practice owners and industry experts about building profitable, sustainable practices without burning out or sacrificing your personal life. I'm Eric Levenhagen. I'm on a mission to help practice owners create more predictable cash flow, keep more of what they earn through smart tax strategy, and actually enjoy the freedom they went into business for because too often they just don't have the time or guidance to get there. And today I'm thrilled to have, I'm going to slow down and make sure I get it right, Dr. Meenal Agarwal. Did I get it?
Perfect.
Awesome. Okay. I was so stressed about that. Dr. Meenal has built three thriving practices in the Greater Toronto area, focusing on comprehensive health and mental well-being. She's also a nationally recognized speaker and host of the top-ranked podcast, Uncover Your Eyes with Dr. Meenal. So, Meenal, thank you so much for joining me here today. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Eric, for having me.
Yeah, you bet. I like to start off with just learning a little bit more about your journey. Like, how did you first get into the world of optometry? Is this like the career path you've always envisioned since you were a little kid, or how did
Yeah,
you
it's
get in?
funny, it's cliche, but it's actually true for me.
Awesome.
When I was 11, I was diagnosed with glaucoma,
Mhm.
and I always admired my optometrist for taking quick action and collaborating with other healthcare providers and specialists to ensure that I got the best care possible. And for me, being that young, there was always a fear for myself and my parents that I would lose permanent vision and go blind. And that was scary at such a young age. That was what I thought was going to happen. And for me, since then, literally, I was 11 and said, I am going to be that person and be that optometrist that is going to help others. So it's cliche, but it was true for me. And I followed that path knowing that I'm going to go to the University of Waterloo for my undergrad because that's where the optometry school is in Canada. And that's what I'm going to do. And I literally had that straight line, did not shift from the straight line. And I went right to it. But when you have
Okay.
such a strong goal, you can do it.
Yeah, for sure. That's amazing. So I'm interested to know, okay, so that's great getting into the industry and a lot of personal reasons that are personal experiences that help shape that and drove you through there. So when we get into like your vision for your career and now your practice, like what was the deciding factor in becoming a practice owner? Because you could have done similar things working for yourself or not working for yourself, working for somebody else. But why did you decide to become a practice owner?
I never thought I would have my own practice because I never was business savvy. I think most healthcare providers are taught to study, and have that type A personality to just study and be smart. And I don't think I ever learned the business aspect or really even had my first bank account card until I graduated. I was still getting like pocket money or
Mm,
allowance up until then. So for me, opening my own practice was not the plan. It was to work with somebody and for somebody. And shortly after I graduated, I think within the first 6 to 8 months, working with other optometrists and under them, I realized that working for somebody was also not me. And it's
mm,
funny because you do reach a point, whether it's 6 months after, whether it's 6 years after, where you discover or something hits you, there's a voice in you that says you can do this and you should do this because I wanted to set my own rules. And I think I was always felt boxed when I was working for somebody. And I don't know if I ever thought I would be able to be business savvy. I literally went to the bank, took out a loan, and said, I'm going to do this. And
wow.
it was scary because I graduated at 23, I believe. And it was scary for me to go take out a loan and spend that money on opening a practice. But I knew in my heart that I could no longer work for somebody. And I needed to create a happy, healthy environment where patient care was valued, people were valued, and patients wanted to come to the practice and were not scared of their eye doctor or scared to call us to book an appointment. I wanted to there to be an open line of communication and foster a healthy culture. And I knew the only way I could do this was to create it myself.
So you mentioned a little bit here about this, but I want to dive a little deeper because you said we said in your intro you focus a lot on comprehensive health. and that you were just talking about the culture and wanting to allow people to not be afraid or hung up about calling their eye doctor. When you think about your overall vision, what kind of impact do you hope that your work has for your patients, but also their families, or even in your community? It can go as far as that if you have thoughts.
Yeah, I want people to know that your eyes are really the only place in your entire body that a doctor can see blood vessels. And that's why we
Mhm.
say that the eyes are the window to the soul. And that was just such an expression, but it's actually true. It is the windows to the rest of your body. And you can only see blood vessels when you go to an eye doctor. You go to any other doctor, they can't directly see blood vessels. They have to order other scans. And so
Mm.
I truly believe that people don't understand that the importance of a comprehensive eye exam, having a dilation or checking those blood vessels are so important and so indicative of systemic issues, and it could save someone's life. So I think the issue is twofold. Is I want to make that impact not only for my patients to understand or the world to understand that go get your eyes checked, but I
Mhm.
also, a part of my life I feel I want to dedicate, and I'm trying to dedicate through my podcast, really making doctors, including optometrists, feel like your profession is valuable. It is so important. And I think for so many years, optometrists have felt like we're just refractors, one or two better, and that's it. And the world has said
Mhm.
that to us. So when you're hammering us to it's just one or two refractive error, then we start believing that ourselves. And I'm
Mhm.
trying to change that. I want people to know that we're humans, we have feelings, we have a great profession. We're able to dictate more than just your prescription. Of course, we want you to see, but if we don't know what your eye health is, you won't be able to see eventually. And I think it's both about educating the patients and also educating so many optometrists about the value of their profession that they're just not seeing.
It's funny. I was just joking with somebody the other day, but it was like, 'cause I was talking to somebody about something and I had to insert a lot of tax jargon. Okay. And so then I'm like, I'm like, we can go back and talk about any of that, but I go, is that Greek to you? And they're like, yeah. I go, we can all do it. Like, don't worry if you say yeah, because we all do it in our like expert zone, right? We can all do that to each other. I go, the only things, and I mentioned that, like the only things that I understand at a deep, not the only things, I should not say it that way, but like one of the main things I understand coming out of my eye doctor's office, because it was an eye doctor I was talking to, was, and I used the whole one or two thing, which wasn't entirely true, but it was like a tongue-in-cheek thing. But it is also that happens to where we, as coming from the patient seat, may focus on that part, especially if for a while, that's what I believed in my journey as a patient was I just go there to get updated glasses, and sometimes I got to put this stuff in my eyes and make them dilated back in the day, but I didn't really know what that was all for, and it wasn't explained to me. And so I didn't really attach importance to it. But the glasses, of course, were the thing I left with. But yeah, so that's really interesting. And okay, so it sounds like if you were to kind of wave a magic wand and fix one thing in your industry, you're talking about the value, having other optometrists really realize the value that they provide in their patients' lives. Is that well said?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That shift in mentality. Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. All right. Very good. I want to talk about the personal side for a little bit too, because as business owners, we're not just building a business, but we're building and living a life as well. And running a business and all the other things you do, speaking, the three practices, a podcast, that can be all consuming. So, like, how do you protect time for the people that are in your life that you care the most about? I think you're a mother, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
have three kids. I ask myself that question every day. And I think for a good portion of my life, I was chasing that work-life balance that just never came to me. And I
Mm,
think I was always trying to chase it and eventually reached burnout because you can't achieve a work-life balance. And I think slowly my mentality after burnout started shifting towards aligning and just being aligned in the present moment or that present week with what my goals are that week, whether it's this week I'm going to work really hard and I have a bunch of podcasts, or I have to work 4 days, 5 days seeing patients. But next week I'm going to take a break and my kids are off on summer holidays. I'm going to spend that week with them. So I think it's about making those conscious alignment changes day to day, week to week, and not stressing about 3 months out. What am I going to do if I don't have enough time for work or not enough time for my kids? Prioritizing is huge, aligning, prioritizing. And I think the third thing I really advocate for is delegation, right? I have a team behind me, and I think that's important. At the beginning, I was doing it all myself. And you don't know what happened after that. You crash, you burn. It's bad. But I think many of us have to go through that to learn our lessons. And hoping through your podcast, people learn from my experience. But sometimes you still have to crash and burn yourself. I think the importance of delegation can have a huge impact on your health. And delegating, whether it's to your staff, your managers, you have a team helping you podcasting, whatever the situation is, delegate the things that are time consuming and take 10 hours out of your day so that you can spend those hours with your family or with patient care.
For sure. Yeah. So I heard you, that's great. And I heard you say something in there that was, you're talking about work-life balance, not the balance part of it not being possible. And you used the term alignment. And I want to hit on that just a little bit more because I'm right with you, right? Before our listeners here, when you say work-life balance is not possible, yeah, let's unpack that a little bit. What do you mean by that?
I think when we start thinking of it as work-life balance, are things balanced? Oh my God, this week I was just working. Oh my God, I'm the worst mother. There is no work-life balance. I'm burnt out. But if I start thinking of it as this week I was supposed to work, was I aligned? Yeah. Next
Mm,
week I'm supposed to be spending time with my kids. Am I aligned? Yes. But if I start thinking of it as balance and I'm not balancing the days, like today I spent too long working that 9 hour shift and I didn't get to see
mm,
my kids till late at night. Oh my God, the guilt comes on, the blood
yeah,
pressure raises. You
yeah.
can't live life like that. There is no perfect balance and it will never be 50-50. So if you start just making those small mentality changes, that there's no such thing as work-life balance. I'm not a bad mom. I'm not a bad doctor. I'm not a bad wife. It is about being aligned with what is in that present moment. Just like people say, figure out today, don't worry about tomorrow, stay in the moment, stay present. And I think
Mm,
that's a big part of it. But if I
mhm.
analyze my life, yeah, Eric, I mean, I probably spent more time working than I did with my family. And that's going to make me feel really bad and feel like I didn't have a work-life balance. But it's
Yeah,
not always going to be 50-50. So let's not talk about it being balanced. Let's talk
yeah.
about it being aligned. But was I aligned in that moment? Did I have to work hard so that I could support my children? Yes. And did I do that correctly? Yes, hopefully. So
Mm,
if I shift my mentality to alignment, I mentally will feel healthier. And I think that was the whole point of my revelation that I didn't do so bad.
yeah. Yeah, that's super powerful. That getting that mentality, that mindset straight, because we've all known and we've been there probably ourselves at different points where we're just constantly stressed out about this whole idea of balance that we're debunking at the moment and shifting to this idea of alignment. We call it, in my practice, we call it a work-life harmony, but it's the
I
same
love that.
thing. It's all about the alignment. And as long as another thing that just to piggyback off that I found helpful, I'm curious if you agree, is yes, there's an element of, like you were saying, being present in the moment, but there's also an element to this about looking at like the macro picture, not looking at it like a day by day or even a week to week sometimes, but looking at it as like this month or this quarter or this year, am I hitting, if we're like doing a longer reflection, am I spending the time and where it's important for both my business and personal goals. And like you said, that's not always going to be 50-50. If we have really ambitious business goals, there's going to be times in there where we're going to have to work our tails off. And if we have multiple kids in a lot of different activities, there's going to be times where it feels like we're just running to activities and not. And if we don't come into it with the mentality like you're talking about, then we start to really, for lack of a better term, just overly stress ourselves out
Absolutely.
thinking about all the things we think we should be doing, but we're actually doing the thing we should be doing, right? So don't stress about it. And that's where it comes back to bringing you in the moment. I love that.
Yeah, like even as an accountant, right? You guys have tax season or whatever there is, the
Hmm.
periods of year ends for people. There's that time when you have to spend that full month. Like I know my accountants, like that April month in Canada here, that's it. Everybody's working 15-hour shifts and everybody knows that. Like my
Mm,
bookkeepers will say it's tax season, right? It doesn't mean that they should feel guilty that during tax season they're not spending with their families. It's again
right.
zooming out on that big picture. But then the entire December I spent with my family, don't feel guilty. It's part of
Yeah,
life, but I think this work-life balance thing, you think of balance as 50-50. We
right.
think of balance as a scale, and we're those olden day scales and weighting it. And I think that's a really poor thought process that has women in particularly really grilled us that we have kids, but we can't work. And it's just a poor mentality.
I'm curious about whether or not you have learned or just noticed, like, how do you set up boundaries? You were talking about delegation before, and how do you set up guardrails or boundaries so that you know that you're getting into something that really should be start to be delegated?
Yeah, I
Have
don't know
you-
if I set like hard boundaries for them, but things that are, I feel can be delegated because they're either time consuming or somebody else is better at it than me, I will delegate. And I think once you reach a burnout period, you list all, I literally took a diary and wrote everything that I do every single day. And I
Mm,
started crossing it like this needs to go to this person. This needs, okay. So now I've narrowed it down from the 15 things to 5 things that I need to do. And
nice.
I started to keep that diary. Even now I have it where, I'll write the things I'm doing today and then seeing, okay, can I still delegate that? I don't also want to overwhelm those people, but
Mm,
there's open lines of communication. But I think once you reach burnout, you have to set boundaries within your workspace,
sure.
boundaries within your family life or relationships to keep
Mhm.
you, both of them, to keep you mentally healthy. And if you don't, and boundaries aren't locked doors or walls, boundaries are open windows where you can open them when you want to and close them when you want to. These are selective boundaries that we choose. So it's not that I say when I delegate a task, for example, when I give my manager the task to analyze the last year of business and send me all the KPIs and everything, or the future years of business, it's not that I say, I'm not helping you and it's done. It's that you do it and
Sure.
then there's that open window where you need my help, I'm here to support, and I think
Hmm.
that's really important. And even with family or relationships that you have, I say the same thing. I say, you know what, I'm really busy this week because I may not want to talk to that person. I'm really busy this week, but if you need me, I'm here. And I think those are important boundaries. It was a new revelation. I didn't know I could set boundaries because my whole life, many of us say, yes, we'll help you, whether it's a patient, a family member, a staff.
Hmm.
Yes, I can do that. Yes, I can do that. Yes, I can do that. But when I started listing my tasks out that I do in a day, Eric, it was like so many things for family as well. It wasn't
Yeah.
just things I was helping this person with this thing, this person writing this thing. There were so many things I was doing for everybody. And it's, whoa,
Mm.
how do I do that? And that's when it was like, no wonder I'm getting burnt out. That needs to be delegated. And I think most people have that realization before burnout, which is like 10 on 10. I want them, hopefully, through this conversation, to realize it at 2 on 10 or 3 on 10 when they can make smaller changes rather than have big changes like I had to make.
Okay. Thank you for sharing all that. That's great. Before we run out of time, I'd love to switch it back to the business side of things for just a little bit, even though we're talking a bit about business. But just out of curiosity, like what are some of your biggest goals for yourself and your practices, maybe like over the next year, 6 to 12 months? Where are you looking to take your business from here?
Growth. Of course, we all love growth.
Yeah.
I think what's important is we have key metrics or KPIs, key performance indicators, both for our staff and our business. And I think what's important is that those KPIs are growing in our business. And those are goals that we set in January. We also have monthly goals and we set them for our team, for ourselves. And typically the goals are typically 120 to 130% over the year before, if we can, of course. But any growth is important. When you don't have growth, you've got to sit and analyze and see why. What is the reason? Whether it's a cave employee who's not doing anything, or whether it's a issue with not having enough patients or sales, you have to analyze what is the problem. And I think for me, my goal is growth in my business. In terms of my podcast, it's more about getting people motivated, learning about all the different truths in health and wellness, and really cross educating different professions. And I came at the podcast as an optometrist, wanting to learn more about psychiatry, wanting to learn more about neurology and all these things, because I can't tell you how much these things have helped me in my practice. We are not just an optometrist. We are, again, the windows to the soul. We are the doctors that can find everything. And I think it's so important to know about the gut connection, everything. And I think we have underplayed our profession for way too long. And when I launched the podcast, I was like, this ends now. And I needed to do this. It was like writing my book. And I only hope, launch the podcast April 2024. And I only hope that there can be more growth and we reach more houses, we reach more doctors, we reach more patients. There's a lot of episode about patients and self-advocacy and just giving them knowledge to self-advocate. Of course, our goal is always growth in all aspects that we do.
This is a question that I ask everybody at the end of every episode, and maybe it's something that you've already mentioned. The last bit that you were just talking about was great. So maybe it's that. Maybe you just said, see the last 2 minutes. But if it's something that comes to your mind or you want to elaborate on anything, that's great. But I would just love to get your take on what is your best piece of advice you'd give to other practice owners who are really not just looking to survive, but looking to thrive in the current landscape of independent optometry.
It's, you can do this. You can do this. I can't tell you how many times I felt, I'm getting goosebumps now because countless number of times I felt put down in the profession. I felt put down as a woman. I felt put down when I graduated that I was too young. I can't open a practice. There was so much stigma. People laughed at me. There was also, when I talked about mental health, people laughed and it was looked down upon in the industry. And now it's everywhere. And I can't tell you, you can do this. And if you believe in something and you think you can, or you even want to, go try it, because you will regret it the rest of your life. And I think what's most important is you have faith in yourself. So that's my advice to every provider out there.
Meenal, thank you so much for all the insights you've shared here, not just about business, but your philosophies on life. Truly enjoyed it. And I know that our listeners are going to take a ton away from this today. And if you're listening right now, I'd probably go re-listen to it because there's just so much good stuff that we just packed into this 20 or so minutes. So
Thank
thank
you,
you
Eric. I
again.
appreciate it.
Yes, very much. Thank you. And to our listeners, thanks as always for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.